Hello, friends. Welcome in to Talking Sports at Work on this beautiful Monday, post Father's Day, post my birthday Sunday, or excuse me, Monday. Today is Monday the 16th. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Hope you had a great Father's Day. I hope everyone celebrated my birthday in some way or another. I know I had a good birthday weekend. Normally, I don't like my birthday anymore. Um, I've got a whole thing about that where, all right, let's go ahead and turn this down. Um, I've got a whole thing about it where, like, when you're a kid, the birthday, or even when you're younger, when you're a teenager and in your early 20s, birthdays are meaningful and you're passing new milestones and all your friends and family gather to celebrate you. But then once you're an adult, especially once you have kids, the entire formula sort of flips on its head and it feels like it becomes more about like you making sure that everyone else is having a good time and just because my family, my mom, my kids, they're all gonna put in effort to try to celebrate my birthday, but it, a lot of the times in the days leading up to it, especially, it feels more like I'm gonna have to just put on a happy face and make sure that they know that their efforts are appreciated. And it's more about like, you making, instead of the milestones that you're passing, everything's now in the past, or, there are more important milestones in the past than maybe you have to look forward to. And then, instead of everybody coming together to just make you happy. It becomes more about you making sure everyone else is happy. But honestly, excuse me, this year I think they did a great job. I got some really cool gifts that were things that I actually like and wanted, and my mom made a nice dinner for me up at her house, and the kids all got together with her and help do some things, make some cards, and they contributed to my gift. So it was really cool. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a whole thing with that, but it ended up being a very a good celebration, and I enjoyed it. And I usually don't enjoy my birthday. Now, on my actual birthday, I was working the entire day, and it was a hard day, and I was working late, so that kind of sucked. But yeah, on the weekend, which is when we really tried to celebrate it, it was sort of a Father's Day slash birthday combination, I guess. And it was really fun. So that was nice. Anyway, I hope everyone else had a great Father's Day. We had some stuff to talk about. There's not a lot in the football world now. If you listen to the last episode, you know that I'm now going to be covering the Titans for Fansided, which is really cool. Still getting sort of the onboarding and the tiny bit of training, I guess, that goes into it. We're still doing that at the moment, but I think the final steps of that process are either complete or are coming up very soon. So very soon, you should be seeing my name on the fan sided website with some articles about the Titans. It's going to be under HDW personally. I decided to go by my initials, kind of like I always thought I would do that when I became a published. Shut up. Whenever I was an author, I just always assumed I would do that. Well, one, because it just seems cool, but also I don't know of any writers named Derek. So, and I'm certainly not going to go by my first name, which is my father's name. But anyway, so it's going to be under HDW personally, which is also all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram handles and stuff. So that should make things easier for people. But yeah, that's going to be exciting. Going to be lots of people seeing my work, and yeah, hopefully it's going to lead to some more some actual success with this whole sports media thing, which I really didn't. didn't expect. I didn't know which way I was going to go with the podcast, with my career, or anything. There were a lot of questions, and now it's starting to feel like some answers are becoming clear, or at least what my path could be. I'm still going to have to maintain some sort of day job because I know that that's unlikely to pay enough on its own to really. Be enough. But I've still got some applications out there, some things in the works as far as that goes, some things that might be exciting or be fun, or at least until I finish this bachelor's degree, which I've got a little bit longer on that. And then, yeah. But anyway, that's my whole personal spiel for the day. We've got some sports stuff to talk about. It's all basketball today, which is I know that's a rare thing for me, unless I think of some football topics, which I generally do anyway. But the Grizzlies made a big, surprising splash trade just yesterday that kind of took everyone off guard. And it could mean a lot of things all around the league. It could have some big ramifications, could have some ripples all throughout the Western and Eastern Conference. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into with that. We've also got what is it, game five? Game five of the NBA Finals. It's tied 2-2. The Pacers are once again a big, big underdog at Oklahoma City, and I've got some thoughts on that. So yeah, we'll dive into all that, and if I think of anything else, I'll talk about that as well. But if not, this will probably just be a short episode. All right, I'll be right back. All right, friends, welcome back. So, the Memphis Grizzlies, who are kind of my other team in the NBA that I root for. I've talked a lot about that. I was always a huge Kobe Bryant fan as a kid and just kind of felt like a leftover Lakers fan without a true fandom for a long time. And, I'm still a Lakers fan, I think, but excuse me, I've tried to be a Grizzlies fan as well, even though they make it hard sometimes, and I don't feel the same like necessarily just the same innate connection to them that I do maybe to the Vols and even the Titans. Because it's completely on the other side of the state, and it's not like we ever get to go to games or anything. It's a 7 hour drive, I think, just or 6 7 hour drive. But anyway, that's beside the point. The Grizzlies are sort of, because they are in the state of Tennessee, they are my other team, and they made a big trade that, look, my reaction to this was the complete opposite of what I heard on ESPN with Brian Windhorst right afterwards. I saw the notification come up. I sent it to a couple of friends and family and got to some discussions about it. And within minutes of sending that, the thought occurred to me. Well, the first thing is I looked it up and I found four unprotected first round picks and a pick swap. They took on that crappy KCP contract, which was part of it, but they also got a pretty decent young player in Cole Anthony. Um, but those picks, that was a massive haul. And so the next thing that occurred to me was, oh shit, they're about to make a move for Durant or maybe even Giannis. I mean, remember, Memphis was one of the teams that had been talked about in possible Durant trade talks around the deadline. And, once they were eliminated. That's kind of faded away lately, but I still believe that they are looking to do something. I don't think that this was the beginning of a rebuild, which is what Windhorst, that was the direction that he seemed to think it indicated, was he started saying, well, now are they going to be shopping Triple J? Are they going to be shopping Ja? Because nobody else is really rebuilding right now. So this could be a great opportunity for them to take advantage of that and sort of just tear it down, sell off pieces, and start new with the new coach and go from there. That is not what I think they were doing. That was not my initial thought. My initial thought was they just got a boatload of picks to go and maybe make a move for someone else. Now that could be what they're doing now, and since the trade, and now this was the initial reaction, my initial reaction, Brian Windhorst's initial reaction right afterwards. But now, since then, more information has come out. This happened about, I don't know, 12 hours ago or so. It was sometime during the day yesterday. I guess it was closer to 24 hours. I don't know, sometime yesterday. But now, since then, more information has come out, and it seems the Grizzlies are not shopping Jaren Jackson Jr. They are not shopping John Morant. This was just, and look. Desmond Bane, he's a really good player, but that's it. I mean, this was kind of it wasn't quite a Mikal Bridges haul, but and I honestly think Bane is a better player than Bridges. But oh my lord, this friggin' thing is driving me nuts. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background, but the stupid thing beeps at me like every couple of minutes, and yeah. Anyway, but this was a big time haul for the third best player, a third option kind of guy, a really good third option. I don't think Bane is good enough to be like the second option on a contending team, but he is certainly good enough to be the third option on a really good team. He's a great 3-point shooter. He is a great perimeter defender. He's just a great team guy, a great kind of, one of those culture guys, I guess. So he's a really good player, but given what the Magic gave up to acquire him, it kind of feels like the Grizzlies just saw this offer and apparently they had been fielding some calls for him. So it wasn't just like something that came out of nowhere where Orlando called and made this offer. Apparently they had been talking to some other teams, and so maybe that's what drove up the price a little bit. But I could see Windhorst thinking with this, especially given that they took on KCP as well, which really Orlando had to pay to get rid of him. One of those picks, or at least the pick swap, probably was just to be able to get that contract off the books. And now it'll be interesting to see, what the Grizzlies do with him. Will they keep him next year? Will they try to offload him as part of something? I don't know. But I do think that this was just sort of like move one for them. This was the beginning of something else. And look, I'm not saying I have any sort of inside information. This is just the sense that I got and my initial reaction. And as we've gotten more information over the past 24 hours or however long, it seems more like I'm right. They're not shopping Ja. They're not shopping Jaren Jackson. They're not rebuilding. This was a move to acquire a boatload of picks, and for a team with two prime all stars, I don't think you're just doing this, even in the new apron era, and with the way that the Thunder have built and whatever. I don't think that you make that move and trade away your third best player without some other moves in mind. I mean, the GM, I read this article that showed something about what the GM had said after they were swept by the Thunder, and he said something about asked about the window or how close they were to a championship, and he basically said, I mean, after that result, you can tell we're not close. We've still got a lot of work to do, and so the question becomes then, how close does he believe they are? Does he believe that if Giannis is still on the market, if we could go and add him to this mix? I mean, if that happens, that is now your favorite in the West. I'm just going to tell you that is now over OKC, over the Lakers, over everybody. If they don't have to give up too many active players, if you've got Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr., and you're still able to keep some of those young pieces like Jalen Wells. And you add Giannis Antetokounmpo to that mix. That's now, I think, the favorite in the Western Conference. I think that's the favorite to win the championship. So, I mean, 4 first round picks and a pick swap goes a long way towards making a move like that. Or is it Durant? Could they be making a move for him now? The thing with that is obviously Durant has talked about he's willing to sign a long-term contract with only 3 teams at this point, which are the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Heat. But Memphis could say, you know what, let's do what Toronto did with Kawhi. Let's just bring him in. Let's see, at worst he is a rental, which I mean, come on, how with his age, how much longer is he really going to be Kevin Durant, So I don't even know how big of a deal it is with him wanting to sign a long-term contract. I mean, yeah, you'd probably like to be able to keep him for at least a couple of years, but the price for Kevin Durant is not going to be anything close to what we're used to seeing Kevin Durant go for. This is a different version of him. He is older. Teams recognize what he is not. Um, So the price tag is going to be significantly lower. It's going to be a much more affordable Kevin Durant than what we had seen in the past. And that also brings me to another topic, which is something I wanted to talk about as well. As far as how much should the Suns really cooperate and give Durant what he wants, as far as the trade destination. And I'll dive into that a little bit later because that is a topic in and of itself. But just to finish up on the Grizzlies, I do believe that there is something else in the works. Now, it may not be Giannis, it may not be Durant, but I think that they have their minds. I think that they're going in a direction, and it's not just about acquiring all these picks. Um, I think they've got some, like I said, Jalen Wells was like, what, second or might have been third in rookie of the year voting. So they've got a good piece there that can already kind of step in and, take some of that Desmond Bane role. They've got Scottie Pippen Jr., who has proven to be a very good role player. Zach Edey has been, I think, already a better NBA player than many people expected. So this team has some good young talent already. And then you've got two prime all stars. If you're able to maneuver this correctly and add another, star caliber player or just, a big time player, the Grizzlies could open up that window that looked like that they weren't close to. And it doesn't now. Giannis would obviously be my pick, but it seems from the talk that we've heard lately that for whatever reason he's now becoming less likely to be traded, and he's it seems more and more likely at this point that he's actually going to stay in Milwaukee and that they're going to keep him. Now I don't know that makes any sense for any party, if for either party involved. But again, that's another topic in and of itself, and maybe we can talk about that. But look, if the Grizzlies could add Giannis, that would be home run. I would go and I would buy more Grizzlies gear and stuff. I would be fully engaged at that point. Like, okay, now I'm not just mostly 50-50 Lakers Grizzlies fans where it sometimes goes to 60-40. I would maybe even, well, I don't know. It's hard to not love what the Lakers have right now with Luca, but yeah, I would be super excited for Memphis at that point if they were able to do that, and it would again, it would make them a true favorite to go to the finals to win the championship. Now, is that possible even with the apron, the cap the way it is, and the second apron rules and all that? I don't know. This could have been a move to get. Desmond Bain was under a contract that was not very modern cap friendly either. They signed this contract that he's under before this whole new cap rules stuff came into being, and so he was on, I think, either a max deal or damn close to it. So getting rid of that also was kind of a good thing for them as well. And we know that Jaren Jackson's going to be coming up for a contract soon. I think John might be as well, but I know Jackson is. So this could have been a move as well, just to sort of free up some space to re-sign Jackson, and maybe package these picks to fill out some depth instead of getting another star player. Again, I feel like the Grizzlies have more young talent than people realize, and now Cole Anthony is another good young player. So, yeah, there are a lot of ways they could go with this. So, either way, they end up, whether it's, these picks become a package to go get a superstar, or they end up making more maneuvers to sort of, fill out the depth and add players that fit better and the sort of fast-paced Thomas Isulo, however you pronounce his name, system, or they just want to make some space to re-sign the guys they have and keep building with these young players and add some more through the draft. Either way, it feels like this was a big win for them. Even though I like Desmond Bain, that was a buttload of picks, four unprotected first-round picks, as well as a pick swap at some point as well. So yeah, that feels like a big win. And then there's the Orlando side of this to talk about as well. So I'm going to take a break and we'll dive into some more stuff in just a minute. Alrighty, friends, welcome back. So, sticking with the NBA and even sticking with that trade, because the Orlando side of this is interesting as well, I think. And the reason why is what I talked about in the intro, because this really could have ripples that affect both conferences. For a guy who's, sort of the third option on, you know, not that great Western Conference, an above average Western Conference team, this trade could end up being very impactful. And the reason why, and this was something I was actually reading earlier today on an ESPN article. It talked about how the a lot of the teams in the East may be making some aggressive moves like this soon, and the Magic are just the first because they see an opening with, and that is because largely of the injury to Jason Tatum. Knowing that, Boston has sort of been on top of the Eastern Conference for the last few years, and they've been clearly the team to beat. And now they're probably going to be, at best knocked out of that, clear king of the hill spot in the East without Tatum for next year. That's going to open a window for a lot of teams. And we now know that the Pacers are a lot better than anyone realized. So it kind of looks like, the Pacers are probably the team to beat in the East right now. Boston will not be that, even though they're really good. They're going to have to get rid of some of those players, but with the cap the way that it is now, Tatum's not going to be there next year. So they're not going to be they'll still be probably a playoff team, obviously, but they're not going to be the team to beat. It'll probably be Indiana. New York might even be up there. But there's sort of a vacuum that's now been created. There's an opening because of the Tatum injury for teams in the Eastern Conference to make some moves. Cleveland will still be a factor, but how legit are they? We don't know. Um, so a team like Orlando, that's sort of a team steadily rising for the last couple of years. They've been in the playoffs the last couple of years. They have a couple of, all-star caliber players who are still getting better, and Bankero and Wagner. And now you add a really good third option kind of guy who also just happens to be really good at what was their biggest weakness. I think they were the worst three point shooting team in the league last year. And you add a really good, athletic 3-point shooting, good defending, catch and shoot guy who can also help create. And Desmond Bane, it's a good addition, even though the price tag was, pretty high, and people may feel this was too hefty of a price to pay for him. It was an aggressive move by Orlando, who was not known for doing that, who has not done that much lately at all, because I think they see an opening. So I kind of applaud their willingness to go for it as well, knowing that the East is already just the weaker of the two conferences. And now the king has sort of been dethroned. And outside of Indiana and maybe Cleveland, who else are you really certain is going to be that good in the East? I mean, you would say New York, but we don't even know who their coach is going to be now. And sort of that whole team was built to play the Tom Thibodeau system. So, and there's another topic in and of itself, which I don't know if I'll have time to dive into, but I like the Orlando Magic side of this as well, actually. I do feel like maybe Memphis kind of won the trade because there was just so many picks. Um, but they were also able to offload that KCP contract that they wanted to get rid of. They had to give up Cole Anthony, who again I think is a decent young player, but they added a guy who is just he's never made an all-star team, but he's just like right there on the fringe of being an all-star player. It feels like, and now on a team where he's not going to be as overshadowed as a scorer, like by John Morant, by Jaron Jackson. He'll have Bankero and Wagner there, but he'll sort of be the veteran, and maybe he'll have more opportunities. Maybe Bane can make his first all star team this year as well. So it's a very impactful move, not just for the teams involved, but I think for the league as a whole. This could mean a lot of things. Anyway, I'm going to take another quick break, and then we'll dive into something I sort of foreshadowed or hinted at earlier. Okay, friends, welcome back. So, I mentioned this earlier about the whole Durant thing because it's a topic that heard being discussed on the radio earlier this morning, and it's a topic that's always discussed anytime there's a superstar player potentially being traded. Excuse me, whether it's in basketball or football or really probably any sport, but and that is it's kind of like how much should you expect the team to sort of work with the player and acquiesce to, where he wants to go. And I think it varies with these situations. Like I don't think there's just any one answer. Like now technically the answer is the teams don't have to do anything, I don't think. But excuse me, just for the sake of their reputation and maybe trying to do the right thing, continue and and be looked at as a place where other players would want to go. There is some thought that needs to be put into this. Now, when it comes to Phoenix and Kevin Durant, my thought is they don't owe him shit. Like he was a massive disappointment for them. That ended up being a catastrophe for this team. Now, it wasn't just him. He was not just the problem necessarily. They were, the organization kind of screwed up the whole thing with a revolving door of coaches with they never should have made that trade for Bradley Beal, which, maybe seems obvious in hindsight, but a lot of people seem to think it was the right thing at the time. But they never should have done that. And they just totally sort of bungled this thing. But the point is that Kevin Durant was nothing for them. He just ended up being the centerpiece of what was one of the most disappointing rosters in recent memory. Um, Basically the cause of them now having to reset their whole roster with no real assets. I mean, outside of Devin Booker, who I don't think they're going to be willing to move, what do the Suns have of value where they could sort of even try to recoup any of what they gave up for Durant and for Beal? Not much. And again, like I said earlier, the Durant price tag is not going to be nearly what it used to be. I don't know what he's going to go for, don't know where he's going to go, but given the situation, I don't think they owe him anything. I don't think they have to acquiesce to where he wants to go or have any sort of, I don't think that needs to even be a factor for them. I think they need to be getting whatever they can get, the absolute best package they can get without thinking about what he wants. Now, if you look at the other superstar that's been talked about as potentially being traded, I think it's the opposite because I do think the Bucks should feel some loyalty and should feel some appreciation towards what Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, he brought a championship to Milwaukee, which is not, a big time NBA franchise. It's not a destination franchise for free agents. It's not, a big market, but he brought, superstardom there. He brought two MVPs. He was, briefly sort of the face of the league, and he won a championship for that franchise. So I think, similar to kind of what happened with LeBron in Cleveland, although he wasn't traded, I think he left as a free agent. There are varying degrees of how much a franchise should how a franchise should view a guy and what they maybe owe him or how willing they should be to help him get somewhere he wants to be. For the Bucks, I think they should be willing to help Giannis. I don't think that should be the determining factor necessarily. I think it's still up to the franchise, what they want to do. But for the Suns, Kevin Durant was nothing but a catastrophe for them. They don't owe him anything. So I would not be expecting him just to go to Miami or San Antonio or Houston because that's where he wants to go. I think I think those teams are no more likely to land him than any of the other teams that are in the mix, which we hear there's still like excuse me, like at least three or four other teams that are in the mix for him. Although I don't know if they've been named. I know the Timberwolves are a team that we've heard talked about, but that seems kind of I'm not sure how that would happen because I don't think they have enough to be able to get him, but yeah, it's possible. Um, I think Gobert would probably have to be involved, and I don't know if that's really what Phoenix would want. But anyway, Yeah, I think that, and yeah, I mean, you guys, if you listen to the show or if you know me, you know that normally I am very much on the side of the employee versus the employer, the worker versus the corporation or whatever. But it's a little bit different when we're talking about professional athletes, especially super successful ones who are multimillionaires like Kevin Durant. So, I'm would probably still take the labor side most of the time, but just looking at it objectively in this case, I don't feel like they necessarily owe him anything. Um, and I'm also not sure why Miami would be one of the teams on his list. I don't think they are that close. Now, maybe he's looking at it as the East is sort of wide open right now. And, they've got Tyler Hero, they've got Bam, they've got Spolstra. They win no matter who's on their roster, it seems like. And maybe he could be the missing piece to sort of make them a true finals contender in the East. But I think the team that really makes the most sense, or the teams would probably be, well, honestly, there's one team that makes sense more than any, and nobody's talking about them anymore. But it was a team that tried to trade for him at the deadline, and that's Golden State. I mean, that's the team where he would immediately come in and fit right back in. That's the team where he's already played for this coach, played with some of these guys. He's already been a part of championships with them, and it would just. But I mean, honestly, I think that he missed his opportunity for that. Um, and I don't know how much it was him versus the organization, whether he was the one that said he didn't want to go to Golden State again or didn't want to be traded at the deadline, or if it was the Suns who didn't want to move him. But I mean, if it was him, you got to think he's maybe regretting that now because that's the destination that would just immediately make the most sense and put the Warriors right back there at the top of the Western Conference again. Um, so that would make a ton of sense. It would be really cool to see him, I think, with the Spurs, given the young talent there and the fact that they're already building something that's going to very soon be a legitimate contender with Wemby and Castle and, all those guys. And then you add in a guy like Durant that's just going to immediately come in and make any team significantly better and you've got this young core that's building towards becoming a true contender. And it's a similar thing as well with the Rockets, although I think the Spurs maybe have more star power and, are, even though the Rockets may be there closer time wise, I think the Spurs have better talent and putting Durant on that roster, yeah, that'd be something special. And, pairing him with Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. So there are lots of ways that this could go, but I don't know that his opinion is going to matter that much beyond, threatening to only be a 1 year player. And maybe making teams shy away from wanting to trade for him. Like if he says he's not going to sign with so and so team, well, they're not going to offer it. So I think that's really the only leverage he has. I don't think Phoenix really has to factor that in beyond what he can actually pull leverage wise. Anyway, so I'm going to take one more quick break. It seems like there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I don't know, that might have been it. But I'm going to take a quick break, see if I can jog my own memory, jog my memory. I don't know, see if I can get my memory working. I'll be right back. All righty, friends, welcome back. Oh yeah, I remember what it was with all the off-season talk and all the trades and stuff and everything. I forgot there's actually an NBA Finals game tonight. And look, I've gone sort of back and forth. I've won, I've lost in these finals. I've done very well in the playoffs, but the finals have been kind of up and down for me. But will say that the Pacers being a 9.5 point underdog and being I saw him at plus 330 on one of the apps. I'm taking them. I am done counting them out. I've made that decision a couple games ago. I am done underestimating the Pacers. Um, and yeah, at that value, give me the Pacers. That point spread seems too high, and I even kind of like the money line. They've already won once in Oklahoma City. And look, I think they've figured out the Thunder. All year long, the Thunder just had this incredible defense that was so active and so just hard for any team to get past and score on. And they create turnovers, and they're always so long and athletic and active with their hands. And they pack the paint, but they also manage to get out really quickly on the 3 point shot. But it seemed like the Pacers sort of figured out the kryptonite to that. And honestly, Indiana should have won game 4. They should be up 3-1 right now. Now, you could also say the same about, was it game 1 that the Thunder kind of fell apart? But, just because it's 2-2, I still don't understand for the life of me why these point spreads have been such a wide margin. Why they've been so high? Um, the Pacers have clearly shown that they can beat Oklahoma City on the road and at home. Like this is not, but we're still seeing a point spread as if this was, we're going into game 1 where everybody in the world and every major media outlet is picking the Thunder in 5. But I don't get it. I'm taking the Pacers. I'm taking them on the money line. I'll probably put together a little parlay with them on the spread as well. With what I've been doing, which has been pretty reliable, is Siakam is going to get at least 18 points. Halliburton, although he won't get a lot until later in the game, usually, is going to get at least 15 points. So if you do Halliburton 15 and Siakam either 18 or 20, uh, although Siakam's going to be around 20 every game. I think he's been under 20 maybe once this series. But if you do him at 18, I think he's been over 18 every game this series. If you do him over 18 and Halliburton 15 and then the point spread, that's probably going to give you a pretty good parlay of, really decent plus money. I haven't actually done it myself yet, but just a guess, I would imagine that that's probably at least plus three something. Um, so those are my thoughts on the finals tonight. I'm rolling with the Pacers, and I'm also going to put little bit on the money line as well, just because I know that they can do it. And look, Oklahoma City did what they did differently in game 4, and really the reason why they won game 4 was because of the minutes management, particularly for SGA. Dagnall had him resting more in the first half and in the third quarter than he had pretty much all playoffs. And so then in the fourth quarter, he had as much or more energy than any guy out there. And you saw he scored, what was it, like 14 points in the fourth quarter, and he was just, sort of the MVP, and he took over. I think the Pacers now and Rick Carlisle are aware of that strategy, and they are going to be more prepared for it in game 5, and they're not going to get caught off guard when, SGA is ready to turn it up in the fourth quarter. And look, so far, the Pacers have definitively won the coaching battle. Rick Carlisle has outcoached the living hell out of Mark Dagnall so far. I mean, that's why it's 2-2. Now, the Pacers as a team, as a roster, yes, are better than anyone gave them credit for, but Rick Carlisle and his staff deserve as much credit as anybody for the fact that for this being a tied series right now. And I think they will make the proper adjustments. And like I said, I think they are the first team this year to have kind of figured out the OKC defense and figured out how to at least get by it, and how to, I mean, there's still going to be an elite defense, but how to at least still score. And especially given how effective Indiana is at 3 point shooting, and the fact that they've got their entire roster, is full of guys who can make threes. That's sort of been the problem for Oklahoma City. They're really good at, on ball defending and packing the paint when guys drive. But when you kick it out, you can get some open 3 pointers against them. And when you've got a really deep team full of dudes who can all make threes, that's kind of been a key to Indiana winning the 2 games that they've won and nearly winning the third game in game 4. I think they're going to keep rolling with that similar strategy, but I think they will make the necessary adjustments for not just winning the fourth quarter because it's assumed they're going to, they've been doing that all playoffs. And so I think when it got into the third quarter, I know for me personally, because I had taken the Pacers in game four, um, once it got to the fourth quarter and they were leading, I was like, that's a wrap. Like, we all know that the Pacers really, really can turn it up in the fourth quarter. So when they were leading already in the fourth, I was like, they're done. This is it. But then SGA was rested and energetic and looked the best he has looked probably all playoffs in that fourth quarter. And now we'll see what adjustments are made to that. And also, the Pacers' defense has been very, very underrated. It has been really good in these finals, especially. So I think we're going to be in for another really good game and a game that is not worth, that does not make sense that it's a nearly 10-point spread. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Anyway, I'll take another quick break and then we'll wrap things up. Friends, welcome back. So, want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you have a fantastic week this week. As I said, stay tuned. Keep an eye out on Fansided, particularly on the Titans site for Fansided. For HDW personally, hopefully I will get an article on there as soon as sometime this week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Everybody stay safe, be nice, and be good. And sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once right now. But yeah, all right, I'll talk to you again soon. Love you. Bye.